right, folks, I just want to talk a little bit about wiring Lowrance or Navico based products. One of the things I see on a lot of forums is people wonder about it. Well, how do you wire up
the Accessory wake-up wire?
So if you look at the active target module that's here, this is an Ethernet network module. All of these require a power on, so they're not running all the time. You could do that, but you're just, wasting power. So how do you do that? Well, coming off a main display, there's usually a yellow wire. The idea is you tie all these wires, yellow wires together, and then you can power them on from the main display. So when you power the display on, it turns everything else on. Now, some folks will have a secondary switch so that they can manually turn that on and off. They, for some reason, have to power toggle everything. This is what I do. I just get a bus, and in this case, I bring all of my wiring over here. This allows me so that I have test points. If I have to do any troubleshooting in the future, I can look with a voltmeter to make sure I have 12 volts there as far as powering everything up. But all of these have on their power harnesses these yellow cables, and it's effectively where I tie them. So that's just how I do it. I found through the years that this is the best way to do it, because now I have extra terminals here on this terminal block, and I can add new components. So for example, if I decide to put a 3D sonar module, well, I just tie it in right there, see? And then for troubleshooting, as I mentioned, it allows you a test point. The other thing, please, I've worked on a lot of boats through the years. It drives me batty when people do not label things. Label your cables. Label everything, even your power. If you're using this style of 2-conductor cable, just even use with a Sharpie. Just put labels, for crying out loud, so that when you're getting in here doing work, you don't have to trace things. You know exactly. Buy a label maker, label every single connection. This on the NEMA network. Label every connection. That just makes your life so much easier later on, and it makes it easier for the next guy or whoever's doing work on it, okay? So definitely do that. And then tie everything down. All that vibration and everything that you deal with in rough water, you don't want this stuff to move. The other thing that I found that's a lot easier, like right here, I'm using Starboard. Put a whole panel of Starboard for mounting all of my electrical modules. I found this to be the best way to do it. So, of course, this is all screwed in with aluminum angle, and it's well supported on the back and on the bottom. But this gives you a nice place to easily screw into and mount this stuff up here. But the other thing that I've been doing is I always run a terminal block or fuse panel here. And the reason why I do that is for all my electronics, I bring that back in here. And this point is the tie point for everything. Of course, there's a main distribution panel in the back. That has a fused panel, or a fuse run to this. So that back there, I think, is 30 amps or whatever, that 30 or 40 amps. But that runs this terminal block. And then that way I can feed off of this. Now, because I'm a little paranoid about power, you'll see that I have 2 conductor feeds here. That's because for redundancy, I ran 2. I'm not saying that you should do that. That's just what I do because I'm paranoid. I don't want to be 50 miles out and have electrical problems. This is a double-edged sword, because if you did have one conductor that was damaged somehow, how would you even know?
Have to just have this as part of your annual test regimen.
Again, it's just because I'm relying on this. This has my radar, everything, right? So I just want to make sure that this never, ever goes down. So that's why I have redundant paths on both my ground, or my negative, and my positive. Anyway, that's just how I do it. And I found that to be very effective, and it gives me the redundancy that I need. All right, so these are just some things to keep in mind, especially with
the Accessory wake-up wire
that are used on all of the Navico-based platforms. This again has been the best method. Now, if you are a control freak, Some guys, what they'll do is instead of powering this from the MFD, they'll run a power here with, they'll run a wire here to a toggle switch that provides 12 volt power on this bus. So that'll turn all of these other peripheral expansion modules on when you turn on that switch. So that's up to you. The idea is just having a common meet point where these things are all home run to. All right, hopefully that gives you some ideas if you're doing a rewire. Take care now.